Okay, so jumping into the music news. Remember those rumors we talked about? The biggest name, well, we kind of alluded to, we didn't really cover it, but we're gonna squash them, I guess. One of the biggest names in heavy music has just kind of revealed that they are actually working on new music in spite of what you might have heard previously. It's fresh material. Speaking of very big names, we're going to shift gears. If you're a regular peruser of the heavy metal side of the YouTubes, there is a bit of a scene change that we have to address in this episode. And finally, on a somber note, one of the more well-respected drummers in the scene, there's some not great stuff that has happened. We're going to talk about that. It's not exactly what you might be thinking unless you're a fan of this band, in which case you already know. But either way, there's a little bit there. We also have new music from Converge, Blackbraid, some touring announcements, and so much more. So grab your dubby and let's get to it. Welcome, nerds, to the Clips channel. If you are new here, then let me welcome you to the Clips. This is a smaller portion of a much larger video that happens over on the main channel. It's a series I like to call The Week in Nerddom. This right here is the music section. We are going to be talking about music-related things, tours, new music, reacting to videos, just regular news in the music news section, all of the things. Super excited to have you here. Let's get into the news.
Subscribe. That is all.
All right, so we don't have follow-ups or corrections this week for music. We do, though, have quite a bit of new music to talk about. So I guess we're just going to go that direction first. We're going to talk about Avatar finally releasing a new single off of this upcoming shift in sound for them. The name of the track is Captain Goat. Still no release date for this new record, but this definitely gives us a taste of what they were talking about when they said that they were changing things. We'll get into more details in this week's episode of That Just Happened. Also released this week, we have a new track from Killer's Confession. This is the first track off of their next record that they're releasing. The previous release was the final single from their previous record, and these two records are tying into each other. So the previous record was called Victim 1, came out September, I believe, of last year. September of last year. This next record is called Victim 2, so it's playing into the naming scheme that they have given themselves with the band name. It will be out sometime this year, it sounds like, though they have not announced even a release window yet for it, so we'll be keeping tabs on that one. From there, we're going to kind of shift things into a more hardcore direction from the whatever the hell Avatar is, and then the new metal of A Killer's Confession into A Killer's Confection. What a hell of a cake that would be. Straight From the Path is the name of the band. They have released, or they're releasing rather, kind of stealth release this Friday for their new record, Clockworked. It is being produced by has been produced rather by Will Putney. You'll know that name because he did the most recent Knocked Loose record. Actually, I think he did the last two Knocked Loose records. He also did the most recent Body Count record. So he's a pretty big producer. If you like hardcore, you probably know Stray From the Path, and those dudes kind of deliver. I haven't really heard much from them in recent years, so I'm kind of excited to see what they've got for us. Speaking of records I'm super excited to see get released, Psycho Frame, a band that is relatively new. I thought they had at least an EP or something before, but this is the debut record, at least debut full length, because again, I'm pretty sure they have something that they've released themselves before this. But the name of the album we now know is Salvation Laughs in the Face of a Grieving Mother, which, if you've listened to their stuff before, that tracks. That sounds like a record they would release. It is being released on July 25th through Sharp Tone Records. Pre-orders are available now. You can go through the link in the show notes if you want to pre-order that record. I highly recommend these guys. They put out a new single with this announcement. We'll talk about that again in this week's episode of That Just Happened. But yeah, Psycho Frame, if you like stupid heavy music, like deathcore cranked up to 12, that's what they do. So yeah, definitely worth a look. Speaking of new music from heavy band, well, I don't know, Converge isn't exactly that heavy, they're just crazy. So Converge is debuting new music in their live sets. There have been a couple of new tracks that they've debuted. The only one I was able to listen to or even like necessarily confirm existed outside of set lists is a track called We Were Never the Same. It's being making the rounds on the bootleg channels on the YouTube, so you can go find it. It's pretty simple. I also have a link to it down in the description. So new music from the next Converge record. I'm super stoked for that. Still no release date for that as far as I have seen. Continuing on though, we now have also our first taste of the next Blackbraid record. This is going to be a very interesting shift. I was going to say very different, but it still very much sounds like Blackbraid. The name of the track that he released is called Wardrums at Dawn on the Day of My Death. Always with the long song titles. The record is due out August 8th. It is going to be self-produced as per usual because the last two records were that way. He's a smart dude. He knows what the hell he's doing when it comes to this stuff because legitimately, I've never seen the New York Times do a write-up on any kind of extreme metal, let alone black metal, and they did one for his, I believe it was for his first record. And so if you can create that kind of hype with your first record, you obviously know what the hell you're doing, and this kind of continues to prove it. So anyway, self-released, name of the record is 3, going with the number scheme because that's what he's been doing since day one. And yeah, Skagasawa has some really good stuff up his sleeve, and I'm super excited for this next record. I don't have a pre-release, but I'm sure if you go to his website, blackbraid.com, I'm pretty sure is what it is, then there's going to be something up there for pre-release. I can almost guarantee it. That is though what we have for new music that has been announced this week. Let's talk about tours and festivals. We have Crowbar and Eyehategod are going on a co-headlining tour together. It's a US tour through the month of August. Starts August 8th in Tampa, Florida, runs through August 30th in New Orleans. There is a lot of East Coast dates. There's some West Coast dates. There's really not a whole lot in the middle. So if you're landlocked, then you got to kind of travel to go see this show. Going to be a really interesting show, especially I bet that NOLA date, because wow, just those two bands, they're from the South. I'm pretty sure Eyehategod is also from New Orleans, so it makes sense they would end that way. But yeah, just gonna be a hell of a show. You're probably going to want tickets for this one if you like the heaviness. Speaking of heavy, Whitechapel has announced that they are starting a tour that is going to be them performing the entirety of Hymns in Dissonance, their most recent record, in its entirety. Like I said to start that because I trailed off there for a second. The name of the tour is Rituals of Hate. Again, this is them performing Hymns in Dissonance in full. Support comes from Bodysnatcher, Angelmaker, Disembodied Tyrant. It starts, November 12th in Norfolk, Virginia. Runs through December 14th in Knoxville, Tennessee. This also is going to be a hell of a show. Bodysnatcher, just Bodysnatcher and Whitechapel on the same bill together. That is going to be a spectacle in and of itself. But then you add Angelmaker and Disembodied Tyrant. That is just a pretty heavy bill for sure. And then Avatar. Speaking of Avatar, in our new music section, we now have tour dates for Avatar as well. It is called the Airwaves, or In the Airwaves US Tour. The support comes from Alien Weaponry, which is weird, but Spirit World is a great addition to an Avatar show, I feel like. Alien Weaponry I'm just not a big fan of, so it is what it is. The tour starts November 5th in Phoenix, Arizona, runs through December 7th in Dallas, Texas. Tour tickets for all of these can be found on Bands in Town. I could not get pre-sale tickets. A lot of these tickets are not yet on sale until this weekend. I think actually all of these aren't on sale until this weekend, if memory serves. So they'll be available eventually. There are no pre-sales for any of these that I could find. So unfortunately, that is the way it is. That is, though, our tours section. Let's move now into some regular-ass news. And we got to start on a downbeat in regular-ass news because we have news that from the Devil Wears Prada camp, their former drummer Daniel Williams and his friend Dave Shapiro, who was an owner and agent of the Sound Talent Group, were tragically victims in a small plane crash. There were 6 people on the plane and none of them survived. And the Devil Wears Prada has made a statement thanking him for his contributions to their sound through the years. He has not been the drummer in that band for a few years at this point. He left to get a big kid job. It sounds like something, I can't remember what it was, something financial maybe, but still was kind of formative in their early years for sure. So we're gonna just take a moment real quick and in remembrance of Daniel Williams. Okay, so let's come up a little bit. Maybe not a whole lot though, because the next one's kind of a bit of a downbeat as well. Though, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe in the long run, this is a good thing, but we'll get to that. So, Nick Nocturnal is what we're talking about. Nick Nocturnal has been a massive contributor to the scene. He's not, I mean, he is a musician and he has released music, so he's also a contributor to the music that fuels the scene, but primarily his contributions have been through his YouTube channel. The biggest contribution, I feel like, is the Nocturnal Awards that he does every year for just the crazy categories that he comes up with for that show. Is fantastic. Best breakdown, best new band, etc., etc. And it's community fueled because he takes the votes from the community, not from some board who is totally disconnected from the people they're trying to make entertainment and art for. It is the actual community itself that votes on this. So he's been a massive contributor to the scene in that way. He has announced over the course of the last week that he is stepping back from his channel. No specifics as to exactly what this means, aside from the fact that it is an indefinite hiatus and he's not going to be doing YouTube content for a while, if ever again, because he needs to reevaluate stuff in his life. And it's a kind of indirect quote. It's a paraphrase of what he's saying, but he's stepping back. It's to stop burnout. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on with YouTubers who produce as high at the high level that Nick Nocturnal does as far as volume goes. You could make an argument for the quality of his output, but the quantity is definitely there, and his contribution is positive, and that's kind of the key thing with Nick. He's stepping back, but he's not stopping his content altogether, because he did record a new EP that he put up on his SoundCloud, I think is what it was. It might have been Spotify, I can't remember. It might have been Bandcamp, and it also might be all of those platforms. I'm not remembering exactly because it's not in the notes, and I take amazing notes, that's right. So yeah, he's figuring things out, and maybe we won't have Nick Nocturnal going forward, which possibly means we're not going to get the Nocturnal Awards, though I would hope, and this is really just hope for hope's sake, but I would hope that even if he did nothing, like, he would still have that to contribute to the community, just because that was so kind of massive. It was getting to the point where there was a legitimate budget behind it, because his channel has grown to such a size that he could do that and reach out to these bands and let them know they've won these awards and stuff. So I mean, honestly, he said he's stepping back from YouTube and basically as a whole, so like, yeah, okay, he's not gonna do that, but I can hope. But also, it sounds like he's potentially going to still be working on music. He's just done with YouTube. I don't know. Go watch the video. It's linked down in the show notes. Go watch the video. Let me know what you think, how you interpret it, and I guess we can have that conversation. But let's move on, because we spent enough time on this, and let's get to something really epic. All right, nerds, so let's take a break real quick. New season, new sponsor. Well, not exactly new sponsor. This is technically an old sponsor. Me, I'm sponsoring myself. This season, we're going to be doing a big merch push. Don't forget the Dubby. Dubby's always great, but We have merch. We're going to be doing active merch things, sales and special items and all this stuff. Right now, there are no special items up just yet over at the Spring store. We do have random stuff on the Redbubble store, both of which are linked down below. But if you go check out the Spring store, that's where the Basic Nerd merch line is. So any of your Basic Nerd stuff that you want, basically it's all of the sections that we do the Week in Nerddom in. So there's a gaming nerd, there's a comic book nerd, there's a music nerd, there's a TV nerd, all of the different sections, and then the split sections even. We have a gaming nerd, we have a tech nerd, we have comic book nerd, and a book nerd. All of these are up in the Basic Nerd line. And then probably roughly once a month throughout the course of this season, we're going to be doing a special shirt in each of those, the section shirts, or however we're gonna sell it. I haven't worked out all of the details just yet, but we're getting there, all right? So go check out the Basic Nerd stuff. I super dig it. I think it's just the most simple way to proclaim to the world that you are nerdy in this area, or just generally nerdy, because it says generally nerdy at the back of all of these shirts, except for the zip-up hoodies say it on the chest. So yeah, go check it out. That is, I'm going to have a special, I will have things to show off soon. I need to order the individuals, the samples, and this shirt that I'm wearing right now is not currently up on the store. This is going to come back. It needs to be a little bit reworked because it still has the old logo on it. But yeah, we will be bringing back the Do You Even Pop Culture Bro shirts as a specialty item sometime throughout this season. So stay tuned for that. Go check out the merch, and let's get back to the video. Now, we did not cover it on the show because I felt like there was a misquote in there somewhere, and it seems like I was correct. There was an interview. This has to do with Slipknot. We're just going to get that out the way real quick. There was an interview with Jim Root a little over a week, about 2 weeks ago, where he said that he's just come up dry creatively. His creative juices aren't flowing. I'm very much paraphrasing this because I didn't actually see the interview. I've only seen coverage of the interview, how everybody's just getting onto this crazy, just Slipknot's not writing new material nonsense, because I've never known that to be the case for that band. I've been a fan of that band since the first record. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna call Mate Feed Kill Repeat the first record. The first studio, like, major label record, the self-titled, is definitely when I jumped on board, but like, been a huge fan ever since then, and kept up with their interviews and things and their points of view on music and such since that point in time, and I've never known them to not be working on something. So when I heard that Jim was being quoted as saying that he's coming up dry, I felt like there was some sort of misinterpretation of what he was saying. Well, now we know for sure that absolutely there was some sort of misinterpretation of what he was saying. He went recently on the Turning Wrenches podcast, because he is a bit of a gearhead himself, and they asked him about new music, and he said that they kind of owe it to Eloy, their new drummer, to write new music. They've said something very similar to that in the past, though it was Clown before and not Jim. So Clown has said something similar to that in the past. So the fact that, again, Jim's saying, well, we're not writing anything new, I'm not writing anything new, I'm coming up dry, 2 weeks ago, just doesn't jibe with that. And then he's saying that again. And he's also saying in this interview, he has 6 songs that he's ready to present to the band to create into, to morph them into a proper Slipknot song. He also has 4 more in the oven that he's still cooking. So yeah, 10 songs. He's coming up dry creatively, guys. Oh, always when you hear something sensational like that, maybe take a step back and wait to hear how that evolves, because that one evolved fairly quickly. It went from one interview literally to the next interview, where it was a complete change in coverage. So yes, we are looking at very potentially seeing some new music from Slipknot. Probably, I would put this, and this is speculative on my part, but I would put this in the next calendar year. We very likely will see a couple of new tracks with an announcement of a new record by the end of the next calendar year. So very likely next summer we'll see the actual record. But if he's got 10 songs to that level of talking about them in the press, then it seems that they're fairly far along in the writing process as a group. So yeah, that just, I'm excited for the actual news and not the sensational news we got last week. Anyway, that's what we got for Slipknot. That is what we have for our regular ass news. So let's talk about our suggestion for the week. Coming out, I think it launches, yes, it launched last week, so it should be up on their Bandcamp. That's the link that I have. It's not here, but I will put it in here. Link in the show notes is to their Bandcamp. Callous Dowboys is the suggestion this week. They put out a new record called I Don't Want to See You in Heaven. It's the last like 3 or 4 singles that we've been talking about in the new music and over in That Just Happened. That's where this has come from. The one with the head of the trout and the dog and the thing and the stuff. Everything that we've gotten from this record so far has been fantastic. I am going to digest this record in its entirety probably a half a dozen times between now and the next time we speak, so maybe I'll still suggest it again next week. I don't know. There's a couple of really great records that are set to come out between now and then, so that might change, but as it stands right now, Callous Dowboys, the artsy-fartsy younger brother to the Dillinger Escape Plan, only in theme, but still, that's kind of how, if you've never heard of them before, that's an apt description of their sound. This is a further evolution of that description too, because you still have those crazy Dillinger moments, but you also have a lot more of the performative stuff. You also have a lot more of the super heavy stuff. Everything that you love about the Dowboys, they have cranked all of those elements about their sound up. You might not get everything in every song, but you're going to get everything in spades throughout the course of this record. And so that is why Callous Dowboys, I Don't Want to See You in Heaven, is your suggestion for the week. Thank you very much, nerds, for tuning in. If you want to level up your nerdy, geeky, pop culture knowledge, then don't forget to subscribe and do all of the things. Go check out the main channel, Generally Nerdy, for the larger portion. Again, you get all of these sections into one convenient video over on Generally Nerdy. The name of the show is The Week in Nerddom. Thank you for checking out this clip. We will see you next time. Before we go, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, probably here.